possible for anybody all season long. And the transfer portal, in particular, the transfer portal quarterback, Diego Pavia, who was a huge part of their success, if not the primary reason, the primary catalyst for their success against Alabama, orchestrated that offense with ease, made Alabama's defense look foolish. The scheme that Vanderbilt has been using to their success all year long had Alabama in knots. Couldn't stop it. They couldn't stop Vanderbilt. Think about that. When I got out of college and when I first moved down here, I guess that would have been 2015, I took a job, side job, was working overnights, midnight to 6 a.m. at a radio station. I was always also loading trucks for UPS during the day. Imagine me, manual labor. But as a third gig, side gig, to make my rent, I was doing press box PA for the Vanderbilt Commodores. You know how many sad Vandy games I've done in my life? From, I guess, 2015 to 2018 was my last season in poverty doing Vanderbilt games. I saw them get waxed by SEC opponents. I'm convinced I'm the first person in the country to learn how to, outside of Alabama, to learn how to properly pronounce Tua Tagovailoa's last name because he played the entire second half of a game that Jalen Hurts started after Vandy started 3-0 and said, "We want Bama," and then they got Bama. Well, Vandy wanted Bama on Saturday, and Bama got Vanderbilt. Giant killers in the biggest spot. And the way that Clark Lee has pivoted from investing in, I don't want to say, it's not that they've pivoted away from developing players who are already at Vanderbilt, but just better utilizing the transfer portal in ways that academic institutions like Vanderbilt or Stanford or Duke or what Northwestern maybe have struggled to kind of really maximize because of the educational standards that they have and hold to. Vanderbilt has found ways to maximize what they have, and they have a bunch of ass kickers over on West End now, and that's not something that I have ever been able to say at any point in my 9+ years living in Middle Tennessee, watching Vanderbilt football. Diego Pavia was already trending towards making Vandy relevant in some way, shape, or form. But the momentum that they will have simply for this win alone, it's unquantifiable. I mean, I'm sure there's ways to literally quantify it, and I hope his NIL valuation goes through the roof. But Diego Pavia and Clark Lee have just put this program on the map in a meaningful way. And you haven't been able to say that since James Franklin won 9 games in back-to-back years before he jumped ship for Penn State.
And it's the way they've put Diego Pavia in a position to succeed.
Yes.
They bring over his coaches from New Mexico State?
Yes.
So they bring some
Jerry
of his coaches
Kill,
over. They surround him in a really good situation, which I don't know if you can say about quarterbacks in Vanderbilt's past. And I feel like Diego Pavia has capitalized on being put in a really good position to succeed.
Take some phone calls on Vandy's tremendous success over the weekend. 615-737-1045. Pavia, 233 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 20 rushes for 56 yards. You had Cedric Alexander with the 7-yard touchdown run. Then you had Randon Fontenette. I hope I'm saying that correctly, with the pick 6 halfway through the first quarter, and they were able to get the lead 23-14.5. It ended up being a 1-score game, and Vandy found ways to continue to adapt, to continue to out-scheme, to continue to bully physically better and bigger players than they have at their disposal, and it was awesome.
Vandy never trailed in this game.
Think about that.
That's the most insane part.
Think about that.
They never trailed, and this wasn't a big comeback win for Vandy. No, they led this game wire to wire.
I genuinely could not be happier for the Vanderbilt fan base, for the Vanderbilt program. Again, we haven't spent this much time talking Commodores outside of baseball, and even then, the Vols have kind of overshadowed a lot of, at least recently, what's happened with Vanderbilt baseball. This is as much time as I've spent on Vandy football, I think, in almost 4 years of having the radio show. Let's start with Ricky up first.
Hey, Buck.
Hey.
Hey, so, longtime Vandy fan. It's hard to explain how wonderful the Saturday that was. To not just beat Alabama in the most shocking win probably in the last decade. I can't think of anything. Michigan and App State's the closest thing I can think of. And even that, I feel like this is bigger because it was the number 1 Alabama.
Way bigger.
And you're
way bigger.
Playing at a away game venue. But then to have UT lose, just to be the cherry on top. Like that's the dream scenario. If I go down today, Buck, I'm a happy man because I just lived the dream scenario of being a sports fan. But I'll say one thing about Diego Pavia. You can win any game when your quarterback can make plays that look like a glitch. I can't explain how many times he's rolling blind. A DN has a free release at him, and he just dumps it off to the right person. You can't beat that. And Alabama couldn't beat it. He's doing a scramble. He splits 2 defenders and gets 10 yards. How do you defend that? Alabama couldn't. And that's why, as long as he's healthy, outside of maybe the Texas game, why can't Vanderbilt win 8-9 games? And I'll hang up and listen.
Man, I couldn't be more excited for you, Ricky. And that's like, that perfectly encapsulates sports fandom. Vols fans have experienced this in the last 15 to 20 years with how down bad they've been. And I know that Saturday felt icky, and it makes this season feel a lot more in jeopardy. But when you Cubs fans, right? Whatever down tremendous team you have been a lifelong fan of, and you just won't give them up. Jets fans, right? When you finally get to cash in, and maybe it's not a national championship or a Super Bowl, but it's a win like that one. And there have not been many ever in the history of Vanderbilt wins like that one. It's the first of its kind. It makes all the suffering, all the hurt, all the commiserating with your fellow fans that are just as down tremendous as you have been in various seasons where there doesn't look like or may not be any hope at all. When you get that one payoff, it makes it all worth it. That's the power of sports. And that is the thing. I love it because it keeps me in business, but also because it is such a genuine version of joy that I don't think that you can experience in a lot of other, in just about any other walk of life or any other industry or any other, I don't know. There's just not anything like that. There literally hasn't been anything like that in the history of that football program. Let's go to David up next.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
So, quick question for you, or your thoughts at least. And I've read enough and, anchor down, go Vols, as well still. But have you heard anyone talk about the administration and the AD and they're not having a knee-jerk reaction to Clark's basically initiation as that head coach and the power of being patient with the head coach? And that's the question. Would love your thoughts.
Yeah, David, it's an interesting one with Vanderbilt specifically, because I will not pretend to have any great institutional knowledge or sources necessarily within the Vandy program. In fact, I had to call Lucas on vacation just to ask for their sports information director's contact information, because I personally have never reached out for a Vanderbilt player or coach the way that I did this weekend after what is a huge win. It's always been a question of, is it not a knee-jerk reaction, or is there just a level of care there that doesn't necessarily exist the way that it does at a lot of other, specifically SEC institutions? How much they're actually bothered by the losing is the question that's always surrounded Vanderbilt. But I think that they have supported Clark Lee. They have started to upgrade the facilities. The stadium is still in construction. There's something ironic about Vandy doing what they did, where not half the stadium, but a good portion of the stadium is still under construction and surrounded by caution tape and this, that, and the other. So I don't know enough about Vandy's athletic administration, or just generally the administration of the school and their level of investment in athletics, but to say that it has improved specifically with football more in the last couple of years than certainly I can remember. And there would be Vanderbilt fans who could speak more intelligently on that and are welcome to do so because we have open phone lines. Well, we have a couple of open phone lines. Some of you guys want to chime in on this as well. 615-737-1045 is the number. We'll talk about this and the Vols result with former Vols quarterback Jonathan Crompton. He's going to join us coming up next. Makes me happy when we can have friends of the show on. It's been a while since we've had this particular friend on. Former Vols quarterback Jonathan Crompton joins us now. You can catch him on A to Z Sports, where he is doing halftime and post-game coverage of every Tennessee game. Cromp, good to see you. How did you have to put out a wellness check for Charlie Burris after this Arkansas loss? What happened? I know Charlie can run a little hot from time to time.
The good thing is it was Arkansas, not Florida or Bama, or we would be putting out a missing persons report for Charlie. I'll say it that way. If it was one of those games, it would have been bad.
It's one of the most entertaining dynamics out there. It's something that I really, really enjoy. If you can't catch it live, it's well worth downloading the podcast as well on the A to Z Sports Network. So let's start here. I know there's a lot of criticism from fans about play calling today. I don't think that there's
just a little bit.
I don't think there's anything, though, that anybody, me, fans, people outside of the building or outside of the meeting rooms are less qualified to criticize than play calling. Do you agree or disagree as a former player?
You don't want an honest opinion in the sense of there's not many people that are fully qualified to criticize play calling at any level. You know what I mean? And I say that in the most honest way, but you know, the good thing is everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But from a truthful standpoint, nobody's in the meeting rooms. Hell, I'm not even in the meeting rooms with them. I look at it from a perspective of a former player and a coach of what I would do, all this stuff. But there's not many that can really criticize accurately. We'll say it that way.
So let me instead of talking about play calling, then let me talk about just generally the approach. What I saw from Josh Heupel specifically is a level of conservatism to me that reflects his belief, or maybe not lack of belief, but not total belief in the redshirt freshman that he has playing quarterback for him right now. I wonder what you make of that assessment.
No, I think that's accurate. I've stated that on our halftime and postgame show, honestly, all year, including in our blowout wins. You don't see the level of explosiveness. You don't see listen, guys, I've said it for 4 years. Our offense is feast or famine. All right. There's not a level of creativity, trick plays, reverses, double pass, kind of in-game adjustment stuff. That's not going to happen. All right. What we do have is consistency of how the plays are ran, as far as everything we run in the pass game is option routes. Right. There are some full field progressions, but still the routes are option routes. That makes it very hard from a quarterback perspective, especially a young quarterback. It's not really like Iowa was a good team, but it's a bowl game. A lot of people sitting out, blah, blah, blah. Iowa's offense also, there's a reason why they put a clause in the guy's contract that if they don't score points, he was fired. You kick a field goal, you pretty much beat Iowa. All right. Then you go into this year. Well, it's all been cupcakes, including NC State, up until Oklahoma and Arkansas. So the level of trust, I don't think, has been earned yet because the opponents haven't been there. You know what I'm saying? So I don't. It's not a lack of talent, but you can tell. There's the clip after Oklahoma where Heupel is talking to Nico after the game and says, "Hey, I pulled back. I scaled back in the second half. Our defense was playing well. Blah blah blah." Well, what to me, I don't care who you're playing. It could, especially I'd be playing against my damn dad. I'm not backing off. I'm not trying to say you're trying to score 70 and run up the score, but when it's still a semi-close game, you don't back off. So that shows the level of, I'm not going to say that he's not trusting him, but I don't know if he full-blown has the confidence in him in the system yet.
Jonathan, I was wondering about specifically the 4th and 4 late in the fourth quarter. What did you think about them punting the ball after, trying to draw? I believe they tried to draw Arkansas offside and then just went to the sideline and then punted. What did you think of that?
I'm trying to remember how much time was still on the clock. I mean, it's not the worst call because what were we on the 45-yard line, something like that?
About midfield.
In that range. Yeah, close to midfield. The negative is we weren't running the ball well. We sure as hell weren't throwing the ball well. So I do think that at the moment it was probably the right call. Their backup quarterback was in, so I think that played into it. I have more issue with late in the game clock management, where there was 18 seconds just ran off the clock after that big play to get us inside the red zone, and then you go on 35 seconds left. We have a timeout and we snap the ball with 17. I don't know what that was.
Former Vols quarterback Jonathan Crompton here with us on 104.5 The Zone. We're reacting to the Vols' loss over the weekend to Arkansas on the road. I want to go back to the lack of earned trust there, Cromp.
Yeah.
Because that, I think, is an important note from a player who understands the significance of the position, but not just the position at this specific university where there are expectations regardless of whether you've earned them or not. And whether as a player, I don't know if you can speak to this from personal experience, but how much you feel that as a player when you know that you don't quite have your coach's buy-in yet, and whether there is a self-awareness or not to have that recognition. Because that can be, I would imagine, a tough thing for an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old to wrap their head around.
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to be easy. It's kind of hard to say in the sense of, because once again, I'm not in the building. I'm just going off what I see from offensive schematics and how plays are called. And I go back to, and I hate to bring up the past because I know everybody loves to do that. Like, we like to compare, this team would beat this team, blah, blah, blah. I don't like doing that. But in 22, you look at the offensive production, you look at the offensive explosiveness. Yes, we had Jalen Hyatt who ran a 4.340. I get it. But you look at the production in the run game. You look at the production in the quarterback run game. You look at the production in scrambling and keeping plays alive. More quote unquote on rhythm throws, even though in our offense there's not really rhythm throws. You know what I mean? We've not had that since 22. And I credit this to him being young within the game of football. I think Heupel is trying to protect him, but trying to protect can hinder your team, if that makes sense. Hendon came in from Virginia Tech having played, 22 or 25 college games under his belt. That's a lot more than 4, So I do think that has something to do with it. But yeah, as the player, you've got to feel, man, I can make that throw, or I can make that read, or why don't we call this, or blah, blah, blah. Like, that's all, you're human. That's going to get in the back of your mind. I don't know if it is in Nico's mind. He does seem level-headed. But the other night, there were some throws that you go, what was that? Like, especially late in the fourth, we run what's called a fallout route, a 14-yard stop, and then he literally falls away to the sideline, hence the word fallout. He's been accurate with those pretty much all year. Defender, corner's off, outside linebacker is underneath, but kind of buzz into the flat, but nothing a Division I quarterback can't make. And he blatantly threw it 4 yards way too wide. Those things that I look at to go, either he's not comfortable in the situation fully, or there's just something there. Now, granted, I do think we'll correct that at home this week because we got 4 straight at home, and we all know what the next 2 weeks are. I mean, it's just what it is. So we do got to get something corrected, and I like what Heupel said. We got to get better. Point blank. We just got to be better.
At JCromp8 is where you can follow him. Jonathan Crompton here with us breaking down the Vols' loss to Arkansas, and specifically Nico Iamaleava. The offense, though, Cromp, I struggle with it at times. Now, when everything's rolling and they've got their ground game going and everything is facilitated off their ability to run, then of course it's tough to have quarrels with it. But when they get in situations like this and against better quality opponents, again, play calling is not what I'm criticizing here. I just don't know if there is a willingness to move away from what Josh Heupel is most comfortable with within the scope
No.
of the offense.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, Arkansas said it last week. Oklahoma didn't have to say it. Oklahoma gave the blueprint to Arkansas. Arkansas took advantage of it, and now both teams are given the blueprint on how to beat us in our pass game. Our pass game is predicated on big plays. Just what it is. We're a run-first football team. We have yet to throw for over 250 yards in a game. We're 5 games in. So that's the stuff that I have an issue with. Play off man, off inside man, rob with the safeties, and disguise 2-man and play 1 robber, and you're going to beat our defense, or our offense, if we're not running the football. So our O-line's got to get better in the run game, but the negative is we don't put our O-line in a great position because we run inside zone, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that between that and the RPO screens and just it's a level of predictability that is, you know, when it works great, but when you've given away the answers to the test so many times, the defensive coordinators in this league are paid to figure these things out too, and I feel like we've seen that since they've gotten into SEC play. You can do it against Kent State, you can do it against Chat and NC State, but now between Oklahoma, who was an excellent defense, and Arkansas, who is a quality defense, this is something to keep an eye on in particular. And it's not lost on me. We were talking about this in the first hour, Crump. The job that Clark Lee and his staff, Jerry Kill, did with Vanderbilt, out-scheming Alabama and using the strengths of their team to their advantage and adapting in real time versus what the Vols did, that has to be particularly frustrating.
Yeah, well, I asked a hypothetical question after the game the other night because why not? I like to get people a little fired up, let them have something to talk about. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're supposed to do. With the way that Vandy played and the way that, correct me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, is it Pavia?
Pavia.
Okay. As Tennessee fans, would you rather have Pavia or Nico with the grit that he plays with? And I'm not saying Nico's bad. That's not my issue. But I did state after the game, Nico's got to be less afraid in the run game. If you watch the game, as soon as he's about to get hit, it's like he puts his body in reverse.
Yeah.
I'm not saying go in there like a torpedo and it's 4th and goal and you're supposed to be the fridge back in the 80s and try to truck people. That's not what I'm saying. But you've got to eventually understand you're 6'6", 215. You're not a small human being either. The way that Pavia played and the way that Vandy played, 4th and 1. And if you watch the end zone copy of that game, there was 0 threat or run. That was the worst play fake ever. Like, it was a full-blown, we're going double move to the field on a drag and go because we don't think you're better than us. When are we going to, let's call it like it is. When are we going to let our nuts drop like that?
That's exactly what Vols fans are saying because Pavia all but did the Marshawn Lynch.
It is what it is.
You know, Pavia all but did the Marshawn Lynch where he's diving into the end zone and grabbing him. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is something to that at the position.
I also go with when are we just going to say my dude is better than your dude? All right. Alabama playing Georgia. What'd they do? They're down by 3 or something like that, whatever it was late. And they say, my 17-year-old is better than your All-American. Go get a double coverage touchdown. Last week at Vandy, they're down. They need to play. What do? The exact same play, but now to the other side of the field going left now. And they say, my 17-year-old is better than your double-covered SEC safeties. Touchdown. At a certain point, when do we offensively start saying that? Like metaphorically going, my dude's better than you. Hope you can prove it.
At JCrump8 is where you can follow him. A Florida week, of course, on the horizon. Florida getting a much-needed win, and Billy Napier's team looking significantly better than they have in weeks past. Tennessee is favored. They are they should be the better football team. They were not on Saturday night. But this is a game that Billy Napier has to have circled because this could be a job saver for a guy who's in very, significant jeopardy as a head coach.
No, 100%. They come into Neyland and beat us. He's got his job next year. Just what it is. Because he can say, hey, I'm turning it around. Tennessee's still a top 10 team, blah, blah, blah. That's his bargaining chip. He comes in Neyland and beats us, he has a job. We take care of our business and play the way that we're supposed to play, he probably doesn't.
From a matchup standpoint, is there anything in particular you're looking for this week for them to capitalize on beyond what we've covered here?
If I'm them, I'm not playing Mertz. I'm playing Lagway because what has historically been our downfall defensively? Running quarterback. Anytime we play a scrambling quarterback at all, we struggle defensively. Hence Arkansas, right? So obviously Mertz is going to play, but I'm saying there would be a lot of the true freshman Lagway on the field if I'm Florida, because that's a matchup for them. So I expect to see that a lot. So, we got to make sure our defensive ends, our outside linebackers, somebody's got to have a spy somewhere when he's in. You know what I mean? So we can contain him and not let him get out of the pocket and extend a play. Because that's where, as any defense, that's where you're going to get hurt. That's where you're going to get the unwarranted pass interference, downfield defensive holding. Something that shouldn't typically happen is when they can extend the play. So that's to me the biggest matchup this weekend is how much do they play the freshman quarterback that can get out and move a little bit better than Mertz can? And if so, how well do we contain him?
He is Jonathan Crompton, former Vols quarterback. He's also the head coach at Tuscola High School, where he's repping right now. Cromp, It's great to see you, buddy. I appreciate you making us smarter, and we got to do it again soon. It's been too long.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate it.
That's the main man, Jonathan Crompton, with us on 104.5 The Zone. We'll react to what he had to say. We'll take your last call for phone calls. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Fun show today. Welcome back. Fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Last segment of the day. Last call for phone calls if you got them. Cromp was great. So was Ramon Foster if you missed him in the first hour. Tomorrow we have some fun things planned for you as well. We don't normally do a lot of guests, but since Lucas is out and not here to pester me, I figure I better give you guys a break from my voice and recruit some of our very talented friends to come in and, as the guests typically do, carry me for 3 hours a day. Let's go back to the phones. In the meantime, if you want to talk college football, we've got some UT and Vandy callers. How about Mason up first?
Hey, guys, what's going on?
Hey.
So, basically, I just got one thing to say about Pavia. I've been a Vandy fan since the first season I can really remember is like 2008 when they won the Music City Bowl over Boston College. And I've said it forever. In order to be consistently successful as a coach at Vandy, you have got to have a quarterback like Pavia, like Crompton said, that's not afraid to let his nuts hang and is going to line up every single snap and say, I know I'm better than you, and I want you to prove it to me that I'm not better than you, and you have a chance at Vanderbilt to win every single game as long as you can keep a playmaker back there behind center taking the snaps. Thank you.
Thank you for the call, Mason. Yes, he was excellent, and there's no question he had the testicular fortitude to make it happen on Saturday night. Let's go to Danny next.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey.
Hey, I've got a question. I need you to help me understand something. The college football rankings, I know, go into a lot of factors, but I'm looking at a ranking where the number two teams last year, 1 and 2, played each other, and the number 1 team dropped 14 points. Missouri lost to a Texas A&M ranked team and dropped 12 points. I'm trying to understand how Alabama only dropped 6 points playing an unranked team, and I will hang up and listen to the call. Thanks, guys.
Truly, Danny, I cannot give you a reasonable explanation. Michigan is in the top 25 still. They do not deserve to be ranked. Frankly, Missouri shouldn't be ranked after that performance. They were clearly and obviously the worst team against A&M. The only thing that I can say about the top 25 is that Indiana should be higher, but that's just because that's my alma mater. Terry next.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey, how we doing, guys?
Good.
I have a question. You still there?
Yes.
If you were a Tennessee receiver, would you be thinking about portal after not getting the football very much? I don't know what the percentage was this week, but last week it was 52-20. And would you be nervous about it?
Yeah, it's something that has to be taken into consideration. This was something that we were going to monitor with Heupel this year anyway, how tight the wide receiver rotations were, because they do have a lot of guys that they can get involved, and they just don't seem to lean on their depth the way that they should reasonably be able to, Terry. It's something they're going to have to protect against if this is the way that they're going to continue to play. Tommy, the last call of the day. Hey, Tommy.
Thanks, Buck. Listen, Arkansas was tied with Alabama Birmingham at halftime. And what I saw in the game was our receivers, the initial plays were not getting open. Our defense was looking at the sideline for calls when Arkansas, half the time when Arkansas was making the play go. And the third thing was our offensive and defensive line were playing straight up sometimes, taking off plays because they were tired. And I just think that those three things have got to be addressed. Thanks.
It's going to be a tough week in the film room for all parties involved at the University of Tennessee this week, especially with Florida on the horizon. Now, Jackson, typically we would do polls here, but do you want to do the food review? We press box food review. Titans were on a bye, but I did go on vacation and I was eating good. No hot dogs this weekend. A quick, not press box food review, but vacation food review. Now, I've been sworn to secrecy on where the last restaurant we ate at on Saturday night was. Off the record, shout out the GOAT, Bill Huddleston, for damn near making me sign an NDA so I don't give away his favorite spot in 38. But I'll start with where we went on Thursday night. It's Restaurant Paradis. I started, Jackson, with a little bit of, have you ever had beef and blue cheese tortellini? Maytag blue cheese, roasted garlic cream in a truffle demi-glace. That was the starter. Then we had for an entree a little bit of grouper. The grouper was excellent. Pecan and lobster encrusted grouper, 10 out of 10. The next night, no dessert. Couldn't eat anymore after that at Restaurant Paradis in 38. Then we went to Galleon's on Friday night. Started with a little smoked fish dip, little yellowfin tuna with sweetie drop peppers, jalapeno relish. It was delightful. And then this was the thing that really put me over the edge. I've never had heartburn in my life. I got heartburn for the first time at Galleon's, and it was not their fault. It was solely the fault of my own, because I went with this unbelievable 10-ounce bone-in ribeye that had jumbo lump crab on it with some potatoes, some asparagus. It was also excellent. The third restaurant I cannot disclose, but I will tell you I had one of the best crab cakes I've ever had in my life. And then I went with crab-stuffed snapper, a little bit of lobster bisque as well, and then I caved and got key lime pie cheesecake. That's this week's food review. Polls?
These are the polls, and they're brought to you by Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
You're really clubbing back there.
What'd you say?
The music was loud. I said, you're really clubbing back there. Go ahead, do the polls.
All right. What do you root for more in college football? History or chaos? 87% going chaos.
I'm with that.
All for chaos.
All for chaos.
What did Vandy fans enjoy more this weekend? 91% going with beating Bama, 9% going with Vols losing.
But you got both. The Vandy fans, they're living good, and Jackson is the one the worse for it.
How do you grade Josh Heupel's coaching job versus Arkansas? A lot of Fs. A lot of people calling out his conservativeness as being scared. So that's what the comments are looking like on this one.
Yeah, not very favorable reviews, easy for me to say, of Josh Heupel's coaching job. Again, it's not about the play calling to me. It's about the fact that he doesn't fully trust his quarterback, and that the conservative nature of that is restricting both him and Nico. And also, their offense is predictable. They got to figure it out, because Alabama, Georgia, hell, Florida this weekend, you're on tape. We know how the Vols can be beaten, and Arkansas did that to a T. They were the better team on Saturday night.
What are the vibes around Will Levis as Titans quarterback heading into Week 6? A lot of people saying he's got to bounce back. Billy is manifesting a breakout turnaround.
Manifesting a breakout turnaround. Well, you can say your seances and pray over whatever pagan idols of Will Levis you want to try and get a better performance out of him. I don't trust him. He has the right to earn back my trust. Are those the polls?
Those are the polls.
All right. Very good. Blaine, if you can't hear him, that's Blaine Bishop just walked in the studio. That must mean that Blaine and Zach are coming up next. We're wrapping up here. Stay tuned. You got them. You got 3HL. A lot of good college football talk. I'm coming, and a bunch of sad boy radio, I'm sure, from our buddy Zach Lyons, the famously Alabama fan. See y'all tomorrow.